February 1942, deep in the Sunda Strait, between the islands of Java and Sumatra, Captain Albert Rooks stares into the darkness from the bridge of the heavy cruiser USS Houston. What he sees is impossible. Dozens of Japanese ships, destroyers, cruisers, and an entire invasion fleet of troop transports. He has just 2 ships, no air support, no escape, and barely half his ammunition remaining. Over the next few hours, Houston and her Australian sister ship, HMAS Perth, would fight one of the most desperate naval battles of World War II, firing until the very last shell against a force 15 times their size. Neither ship would see the sunrise. This was the darkest month of the war for the Allies. 3 months after Pearl Harbor, the Japanese war machine seemed unstoppable. Hong Kong had fallen. Singapore, the impregnable fortress, had collapsed in humiliation. The Philippines were surrounded, and now the Dutch East Indies, modern-day Indonesia, were being crushed under the weight of the invasion. The Allied naval commander, Admiral Carroll Dorman, faced an impossible task: defend the island of Java with a thrown-together fleet of outdated ships from 4 different nations. They could barely even communicate with each other. Among them was the USS Houston. Once, she was the pride of the U.S. Navy, President Franklin D. Roosevelt's favorite ship. He vacationed aboard her, hosted world leaders in her elegant cabins. Sailors affectionately called her the Pharaoh's ship. But by February 1942, Houston was a shadow of her former self. A Japanese bomb had destroyed her rear turret weeks earlier. For 9 massive 8-inch guns, only 6 still worked. Her ammunition supply was dangerously low, and there was no resupply anywhere in the South Pacific. Sailing beside her was HMAS Perth, a light cruiser commanded by Captain Hector, one of the most respected officers in the Royal Australian Navy. Together, they represented the last hope for the Allies in the region. On February 27, 1942, that hope was extinguished in the Battle of the Java Sea. It was a complete disaster. Admiral Dorman lost 5 ships, including his own flagship. He went down with it, and the Allied fleet effectively ceased to exist. Miraculously, Houston and Perth escaped the slaughter damage, nearly out of ammunition, and with one vague, desperate order, escaped to Australia. There was only one possible route: the Sunda Strait. What they did not know was that Japan's largest invasion force of the war was waiting for them there that very night. Houston and Perth entered the Sunda Strait in perfect formation. The night is moonless, the sea calm. Complete radio silence. Captain Rooks knows they're in extreme danger. Allied communications are in chaos, but reports have trickled in about Japanese activity. The problem is, no one knows exactly where the enemy is. At 45 years old, Rooks is the model interwar US Naval Officer.com, methodical, professional, deeply respected, but known for his quiet, distant demeanor. In Houston's radio room, operators are picking up intense Japanese radio traffic. The volume is heavy, the messages undeciphered. It's alarming. Then, lookouts, spotlights ahead. Ships, many ships, aboard the Perth. Commander Arthur Marr, the gunnery officer, is the first to realize the horrifying truth. These aren't just warships. They're troop transports, dozens of them anchored in Banton Bay. The Japanese invasion of Java is happening right now. And Houston and Perth have sailed straight into the middle of it. Let's look at the odds. On one side, 56 Japanese troop transports, 16 destroyers, 3 heavy cruisers, and 1 light cruiser. On the other side, 2 damaged Allied cruisers, nearly out of ammunition. Captains Rooks and Waller have 3 options: retreat, which is impossible; surrender, which is unthinkable; or attack. They choose to attack. Perth fires first. Her 6-inch guns rip through the darkness. Tracers slash across the night sky and slam into a Japanese transport. It erupts in fire and explosions. Houston follows instantly. Her 6 8-inch guns roar to life. Every single shell matters. There will be no replacements. Chaos erupts across the Japanese fleet. Transports packed with soldiers begin to panic. Some cut their anchor lines and flee blindly into the night. Others collide in the darkness. The Japanese destroyers respond with lethal precision. Captain Waller orders flank speed. Get 1E8 knots and begins zigzagging violently to evade the incoming torpedoes. His gunners are firing in every direction. One Australian survivor later described it as like fighting inside a barrel while enemies fired down from every side. For 30 impossible minutes, Houston and Perth dominate the battle. They sink a Japanese mine lair and severely damage for transports. They score a direct hit on the destroyer Rooks, forcing it to withdraw. The Japanese sailors are stunned. How could 2 lone ships tear through an entire invasion fleet? But math always wins. The Perth has enough ammunition for maybe an hour of fighting. The Houston has even less, and the Japanese destroyers are about to unleash their ultimate weapon. 87 Type 93 long-lance torpedoes, the deadliest and most advanced torpedoes of the war. The first torpedo hits the Perth. The ship shudders violently, lights flickering on and off, but Captain Waller holds his course. The guns keep firing. 2 minutes later, another torpedo hits, then a third. By 5 past midnight, HMAS Perth is dying. Waller gives the order to abandon ship. Yet, his gunners keep firing until the last shell is gone. At 12:25 a.m., HMAS Perth rolls over and sinks stern first into the dark water. Captain Hector Waller is last seen on the bridge. He does not jump. Now, all the firepower of the Japanese fleet turns on the Houston. Torpedoes converge on her from every direction. Shells explode all around her. Sky is lit by tracers and the horrifying glow of burning transports. Captain Rooks orders a desperate dash for open water, but the Sunda Strait is only 16 miles wide. There is nowhere to go. A torpedo slams into her starboard side. Its engine room 2 floods instantly, drowning 50 men in darkness. The ship's speed drops to 20 knots. Still, the 8-inch guns keep firing. Turret 1, Turret 2. Every shot must count. Another torpedo hits. The bow begins to sink. Japanese shells rain down on the deck. One explodes on the bridge. Captain Albert Rooks is calmly issuing orders when shrapnel strikes him, as he is mortally wounded. 3 officers hear his final words: abandon ship. All hands abandon ship. Command passes to Commander David Roberts. The main guns are now completely out of ammunition. The crews switch to the smaller 5-inch anti-aircraft guns, firing them horizontally at the closing destroyers. When those run dry, they grab 50 caliber machine guns. Then rifles. They fire anything that can still shoot. A Japanese sailor later wrote in his diary, "They never stopped fighting. Even as the ship was sinking, small arms fire kept coming at us. The Houston is dead in the water, listing 20 degrees, fires burning everywhere." The final abandoned ship order is given. Men jump into oil-covered water, some of it on fire. Japanese destroyers patrol the area, firing their machine guns at the helpless survivors in the water. Finally, USS Houston rolls to port and sinks beneath the waves. 368 men go down with her. For the 291 men left in the water, the nightmare is just beginning. Only 77 of them will survive the night. The rest will drown, be shot, or simply disappear. Those who are rescued are not treated as prisoners of war. They become slave labor. For the next 3 years, they will endure hell on earth in Java and Burma and on the infamous Death Railway. They face starvation, brutal beatings, and rampant disease. For 80% survivors who made it off the ship, will die in captivity. The Perth lost 353 men in the battle and another 105 as prisoners of war. Out of the 1,368 sailors who went into that battle, only 450 would live to see the end of the war. And then there's the cruel irony. Those 87 long-lance torpedoes. Not all of them hit the Houston and Perth. Many missed and continued on their course through the strait, striking the Japanese transports on the other side. 4 transports were sunk. Over 1,000 Japanese soldiers were killed by their own torpedoes. It was a fact the Japanese government tried to bury for years. The Battle of the Sunda Strait was technically a Japanese victory. They sank 2 cruisers. They successfully invaded Java, but the survivors told a different story. Decades later, Japanese officers who fought that night admitted they had never seen courage like it. Ships against an entire armada, fighting to the last shell. One Japanese destroyer commander wrote, "Today, we faced true warriors of the sea." Captain Albert Rooks was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. Captain Hector received the Distinguished Service Order. But the real heroes were the 700 sailors who knew they would not survive and fought anyway. Not for glory and not for victory they knew was impossible. They fought because that is what sailors do. In 2014, divers found the wreck of the USS Houston. Her number 1 turret was still pointed outward, frozen in its final firing position, fighting to the very end. This is the true story of the Battle of the Sunda Strait. The night 2 ships challenged an armada and showed the world what it means to never, ever give up. They knew they weren't coming back. They fought anyway. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more true tales of heroism.